Aside. Sorry, everybody. Welcome to an episode of GVN. I'm Hubs. We got Dave and Joe from GameSack. To recoup the last 5 minutes, we're now getting ready to talk about what happened in the Sony press conference that we liked. Some of us are not excited about Microsoft, except for Mark here, who is happy about Dead Rising 4. And
I don't really know that liking one thing when everybody else didn't really care for anything would be excited in the strictest sense of the word.
Okay. So, actually, you know what, Mark? Tell us real quick, what did you think about the Microsoft press conference?
Like I said, they had some stuff that I was okay with. Like, again, I'm always going to love Dead Rising 4. I'm always going to love Dead Rising as a franchise in general. And to be perfectly honest, they brought Frank West back. There's not much bad I could say about it. I don't particularly care for the idea that they apparently are going to be adding 3 new SKUs to their sales, I don't know what you want to call it, footprint in the coming years. But, I mean, let's be honest here. Microsoft is taking a really significant drubbing at this point from Sony. So whatever they have to do to make a comeback, I don't have to like it to understand why they would try it. Beyond that, I mean, they pretty much didn't have anything to say that wasn't expected. They talked up the new Gears of War. They talked up some of the other things that they're going to have exclusive. But for the most part, it was all a fairly standard conference. It wasn't a really big loser. It's just that Sony had more to show because they're winning.
Yeah, that sounds about right as far as the overall presentation for that. But I don't know, Xbox brought up some interesting things, but it kind of brings to what the whole focus of E3 is going to be about, like just across the different things, such as the crossplay between Windows 10 and also with the Xbox One now, so you can buy one copy of the game, play it on the go, play it on your PC. So are they going to have like some sort of talks as far as like, this is going to be the new medium that now, are we going to go more towards PC gaming, and are we going to just get rid of the console, because this is starting to become really expensive in the grand scheme of things, especially if they're making more consoles now.
Yeah, now we touched on this a little bit in our last episode where we were talking about consoles and like how they're getting upgrades now. Kind of like back in the day, I think Nintendo toyed with the idea of like upgrades for the NES with a little slot they have underneath the NES system. Sega, of course, went berserk with that crap with the 32X and the Sega CD add-on. They even had like a remodel of the Sega Saturn that just came out of nowhere last year. Some collector got like gold right there. So Dave, Joe, what do you guys think about the fact that we're going to be getting, the Scorpio? The Xbox One codenamed Scorpio. We got the PlayStation 4 Neo. We got Nintendo NX.
Well, Nintendo's already done it with the new 3DS. They've already done it. That's way more powerful. Well, maybe not way more powerful.
Yeah.
But it's more powerful than the regular ass 3DS. And so they've already done it. No one cares. So the Xbox S isn't really more powerful than the regular ass Xbone. It just has, it can stream 4K content. It can watch 4K Blu-rays. I guess it can play games in HDR if you have an HDR TV. Who cares? But it doesn't really have any more polygon pushing power. It doesn't have, it's not really an Xbox 1.5. That's the Scorpio that's coming next year. So.
Well, I thought there was the One S, and then there was the actual Scorpio.
Yeah, that's 2 different things.
Right. Yeah. And is there going to be exclusive games for these half incremental upgraded systems? I mean, are they going to release a game for the 1.5 and a lower version for the original system? I mean, that'd piss a lot of people off, apparently.
Now, I do remember a report about a month ago when they were talking about the PlayStation 4 Neo. I think it was on either Games Radar or another website, but they're saying that one of the reports was requiring all game developers to make like a base game that can run on all PlayStation 4 hardware. I mean, you already got almost 40,000 or 40 million units sold, so they want games that can play on that, as well as games that will be able to take advantage of the new features of the PlayStation 4 Neo. Mm-hmm. So I can understand them doing that, but then when you got probably some companies who will be like probably way too lazy and do kind of like, an Xbox can only be played with an Xbox Connect type of deal or something like that.
Well, I'm not so sure because the PC market is kind of becoming like that, where you have a game that will run on this hardware and it'll run on top-end hardware and everything in between. You'll just get like less graphic fidelity if you play it on a regular PS4, and you'll get better graphics if you play it on the PS4 Neo or whatever they end up calling it. So I think that's probably how it's going to be.
So it's just really a graphical difference, not really like, let's say, almost a game engine difference or anything like that.
I don't
6
think so.
teraflops. Come on now.
Yeah, they got to do something with it, right?
And they will.
Now,
Well,
we know that
it's enticing enough for people to want to buy it is the thing. So you might get some added extra content and extra maps, something, for the Neo or whatever it's going to be called.
now for the new Xbox One that's coming out next year, talking about how extremely powerful that's going to be. Pretty much, it's going to be working in tandem with the Oculus Rift, which apparently Microsoft has partnered up with. Do they really need to make a system that insanely powerful just to be able to use it, or will the Oculus Rift work on base systems? Okay, my answer. You just answered my question.
The VR equipment in general, by all indications, is going to be severely system taxing. Like if you go onto the Oculus Rift website, they have a little tool that you can download that says, "Tell me if my system can run Oculus Rift or not," and it needs a lot of tech behind it.
Yes, it does. If anything, I downloaded it and I got the proverbial, go F yourself. From I was like, wow, thank you for making my machine look terrible.
You and your PC are weak.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I got a thumbs up, and then I was like, "Oh, when can I buy one?" They're like, "LOL, dunno," and I was like, "Okay."
Now, so it looks like one of the big things about Sony's press conference is their big push for VR gaming. They showed off a whole bunch of games that'll be using the new VR headset that's coming out end of the year for about $400, which is probably the cheapest out of all the VR headsets when you consider the fact that the Oculus Rift is like $600, and then you got the Samsung one, and then you got HTC. Everybody seems to be getting in on the game. Not a whole. I mean, there's a couple other games that weren't shown, but were announced. But then the one that kind of shocked me was Resident Evil, and that looked pretty cool. I mean, Mark, you obviously disagreed when we were talking about this during the live conference.
So here's my thing with that. How messed up is it that Capcom is making a game that looks more like Silent Hill than Konami does?
Very.
It did.
But I mean,
actually look that.
like this is my thing. I love horror games, and I like Resident Evil, the last couple of games notwithstanding. I just didn't feel like that was a Resident Evil game. And
I agree.
Not at all.
the
No.
bigger problem I have is with VR on the whole. Here's a thing that I noticed while I was watching the VR portion of the conference, and I want to see if anybody else picked up on it. They had like one game that showed any actual gameplay from it during that whole period.
This
And
is
the-
true.
The one game that they showed that had gameplay, Final Fantasy 15, looked terrible.
Yes, it did. It
it
looked
looked awful.
horrendous.
You got one dude standing on the edge of a thing shooting at a monster while other people in front of you are doing cool stuff. And I'm like, is this going to be the next Kinect?
Oh. And it
Well,
didn't
when
even
you
look
got
he was
games
making
like that-
contact with the monster.
Go ahead, Jave. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It just when he was shooting at the monster, it looked like half the time he wasn't even hitting it.
No.
Yeah. That
No.
sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't even see any kind of like hit detection. You didn't see like any splash damage from contact or anything like that. On top of that, the movements of the character that you're controlling was so stiff. It was just like, were you really playing the game, or was it just a camera that was just placed in that one particular plot, and you just had a probably guy going there going pew pew pew?
I do like the idea that they're going to start taking games that are not necessarily VR enhanced and attaching VR to them. But I'm like, after seeing all of that, when you had one game that actually showed like significant gameplay and the gameplay did not look particularly good, they had that other game like right in the very beginning where the guy was just following around this one entity for like 80% of the visual, and then finally he shoots at it with like 30 seconds left to go, and I was like, oh, okay. I don't know what's going on there. But it's I really hope VR goes somewhere. The tech looks really interesting, and it looks like it has a lot of great game applications, certainly more than what, again, something like Kinect had to offer for the medium. But this press conference did not fill me with a lot of hope for it.
Okay, Dave, Joe, what do you guys think about the possibilities of VR gaming? Do you think we're actually finally at that time where people will embrace it, or do you think maybe people are just pushing it way too quickly?
Well, I don't care either way. I have absolutely no interest in it. Why would I want to play with a headphone or a headset strapped on my head? That does not sound exciting. I mean, I thought, back in the day, playing 3D games like on the Master System was cool. You had much cheaper technology, but you just get tired of it after a while. I mean, it didn't pan out, and I think this will be a fad, and I think it'll go
3D
away.
glasses were also really fragile.
Well, I didn't break them, but regardless of if this is fragile or not, I don't really see it as much more than a gimmick that will be a fad and it will eventually go away.
Well, personally, I would like to see it work. I'm not confident that it's going to work right away, but I have hope that it will. I just don't know. I've never worn a VR headset, so I don't know what it feels like. But having to be up, walking around, turning around, people got sick of using the Wii remote and standing up and having to fake bowl after quite a while. And they're like, I just want to sit on my ass and use a controller. So I hope the immersion is there and is good enough to make people actually want to get up and get inside this world and actually have movement and motion and all that stuff. But I just don't know. I'd have to demo it. And the games that they showed there seemed more like, because a lot of them were titled VR missions, which to me sounds like it's a fifth of an actual game. It's just like Metal Gear VR missions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an actual full game. It's just like, okay, we're going to have 10, 15 levels that you can walk through and do whatever, random immersion.
Let's be realistic.
Stuff, and that's it.
What I think it would work best as is if you're just sitting back, just playing with your controller, and it's just basically your TV. Maybe you can look around a little bit, but you don't have to get up. You don't have to wave your arms like an idiot. You just sit there and play with your controller like a normal human being, and then that's just your world. That would be kind of cool.
What we need is a new version of the Sega Activator.
Yeah. Yeah, you really do.
That would at least make the kind of interactive moment. Now you got the stupid set of goggles on there. Now you look like an idiot as you move around, and you got this ring around you detecting your movements. That would be awesome. Not really.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I hope it works, but I'm not real hopeful. So
now there is one VR game that was shown off, and I missed it unfortunately. It was during, I think Ubisoft's press conference. That was Star Trek VR.
Yes, the Star Trek one looks.
Now that one looks awesome.
fun.
It's like finally being able to experience it in the first-person setting of actually being, let's say, on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise, being part of the crew. I don't know to what extent they're going to do that. Is it going to be... Someone said along the lines, it's going to be kind of like a tabletop brought to life in VR, which could be interesting. The video was pretty cool, too, where they had the cast of Star Trek. Everybody was wearing their goofy headsets, playing around and running around doing errands on the bridge of the Enterprise.
And Geordie LaForge was a boss. Oh my goodness.
Geordie LaForge is a boss, period.
Yeah, but he was into it. He was looking down. He's like, "It's Klingons, Captain." It's like, damn.
Yeah. Outside of, let's see, I think one of the other disappointing ones, and Mark is probably going to disagree with me on this one, was the Star Wars X-Wing VR trailer. That it looked more like Rebel Alliance. It looks like an on-rail shooter, and all you do is you turn your head all over the place looking around, and then you're just shooting stuff. I mean, that's what my fear. It may not be like that. It may actually be a X-Wing game where you can control and stuff.
Fighter.
Huh?
I said it could be like X-Wing versus TIE Fighter.
It could be with the free head range, free head movement and all that stuff. But at the same time, it kind of gives me... I had the fear of, it's going to become another Rebel Assault.
I like Rebel Assault for the record, though.
I mean, the trailer could have been better, but, I mean, I want to be able to play a VR game where I can fly an X-Wing. Let me have this.
I will let you have this, Mark. Otherwise, you're going to drive down from Jersey and kick my ass. So, moving on to the rest of the stuff, probably a couple of the surprise announcements. Who's excited for Skyrim Special Edition? Nobody. I thought so.
I haven't played the first one.
I don't have any amiibos, so I can't play Skylanders.
Oh, that's
No, Skyrim.
not Skylanders.
But yeah, they also mentioned that Crash is going to be coming
In
back.
Skylanders, yep.
Yeah, in Skylanders, along with a remaster of the first 4 games, which I guess my wife is going to probably be interested because she likes those Crash games. I guess it's cool.
Take 'em, leave 'em.
Huh?
I like the first two Crash games. I really like the first two. After that, I kind of lost interest. But
Yeah.
I say we'll have to see. I mean, I don't think Naughty Dog's developing that or doing the remaster. So
They're not.
Well,
Some other
Activision owns the
Activision.
IP now, so I think that it's in their
Yeah.
the ball's in their court.
Mm-hmm. So, who was surprised to see Kojima there with a game ready to be displayed
I
at the
don't
Sony
think we
press
saw a
conference?
game.
Well, I don't know. I
saw
mean, he
it
says the
all.
game was in real time, so I mean, obviously it's rendered footage or whatever. But I mean, and we don't
Make
know
it
what
walk
kind of
dead
game it
guy,
is.
That's all you need, man.
Yeah.
I have been waiting a
It's like
very long time for a video game to give me an accurate 1080p representation of Norman Reedus' butt.
Yeah.
Hideo Kojima is truly a developer who speaks to my needs. But I mean, like, this is the thing. I was playing Police Knots recently, and I just kind of realized I'm not that excited about a new Hideo Kojima game, guys. And I know that that's kind of heresy, and somebody's gonna like call for, like the witch to be burned or whatever. But like for me personally, his catalog is Snatcher, Metal Gear Solid, and a bunch of shit I don't care about. Sorry.
Hey, if anything, I freaking love Zone of the Enders, and I freaking love Police
Okay,
Knots.
Zone of the Enders. Zone of the Enders is good. Police Knots, I'm not impressed so far.
Well, yeah, from what I understand, Police Nuts is probably a bit slower of a pace of a game as opposed to Snatcher, which, you know, is pretty much, it starts off at a pretty fast pace to begin with. I mean, you got to solve the mystery of your so-called partner you never meet, and you just see his decapitated body right there off the ground. So, Police Knots, it was mostly exposition for like the first 30 minutes of the game. Sitting there watching the English translation for it, you're just like, Jesus Christ, can we start playing the goddamn game?
Well, that's it. That's Hideo, though. I mean, he's known for longer cutscenes and shorter gameplay. I mean,
Yeah.
the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, like I said in a video, I honestly had to use the restroom before I could see the full ending because 45 minutes later, I'm still going like, is this going to freaking end? I got to go. It's just unbelievable.
Oh,
You know,
the Metal
I like
Gear
the
bathroom
stories and all,
situation.
You'd at least be able to pause the cutscenes.
You should. I mean, if they're that long, yeah, add a little pause button in the bottom.
You know what?
When I was playing Metal Gear Solid 2, my girlfriend at the time, she wanted to see the game. I played the whole game for her, front to back. We got to the end, and she's like, "You spent more time watching this game than you did playing it." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I did, huh?"
You know,
Well, that's
it's my skills, though.
Kojima's style, is that he wants to do the cinematic approach to the whole thing.
And I mean, that's fine, but go make a movie, dude.
yeah, that's about right.
Oh, I have some E3 that I just remembered that I watched earlier today, and that was the Friday the 13th trailer.
Actually, I didn't get around to
That
seeing that.
looks
Tell
good.
me.
First of all, Splatterhouse is way better. All Splatterhouses are way better. Basically, it seems to be like I don't know if it's online only, but they were showing like online gameplay where some people play as like the camp counselors or debaucherous teens, and some other guy plays as Jason, and he just goes around and just bumps into the wall. You know, not very inventive killing. It looked pretty slow paced. Basically, it was a brutal game of hide and seek.
Huh.
And it didn't look.
Sounds riveting. Tell me more.
What?
Could be. I have hope that it could be good because they're talking like they've brought in a lot of consultants. They brought in Kane Hodder specifically to do what he does for motion capture. I feel like they have a lot of love for the series. I'm iffy with it right now because, like Joe said, it kind of looked a little. It had its moments, but there was definitely slow pacing to it. That said, though, yes, I would absolutely also prefer that somebody do another Splatterhouse.
I thought it was funny in the trailer where his mom's talking to him. You know, she's that voice inside his head, and she's like saying something like, you know, find them, punch them. I'm like, punch them? Jason doesn't punch. Jason's stabby.
I thought she said punish them or something like that.
I heard punch.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, no. Like in the I think it was in Jason versus Freddy. She says something along the lines like punish them, make them remember me, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they were trying to do that line, but somebody screwed up or something along the line while writing it.
Yeah, well, I heard punch.
Push
Maybe
it.
it was punish. So
Yeah, but how awesome would it be if it was push? Just go
Punch.
push them. I'll punch them.
So we got a little lively crowd here today. Let's give a quick couple of shout outs here. We got Blackula, give it a shout out to you. Sexy Jesus Games, Dr. Sushi, NJ Zero Effect. You got a room full of wonderful people here so far. So hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for joining us at GVN Live. Once again, just like to let you know we are live with GameSack, Dave and Joe. We got Mark B from Die Hard Game Fan and Keith right here, who also has a streaming channel, The Gamer Keith.
Yep, that's me.
All right, and we're currently talking about E3 press conferences. We're gonna let's talk about some more Sony press conference stuff. How about we talk about the way they opened up the press conference with the amazing little concert they had going on there with the orchestra, and then it leads into the new God of War. Thoughts? Let's start with Dave and Joe.
are we supposed to reply at the same time?
Sure, go right ahead.
Well, you
It
said
might-
my name first, so
we'll go, Dave.
Okay.
High-minded.
yeah. God of War is probably my favorite series on the Sony consoles. So naturally, I'm excited for this. When I first saw, I watched the trailer and, it doesn't have the God of War feel. It doesn't have the QuickTime events. It doesn't have the Greek mythology in it, which is fine. I'm fine with branching out. I don't want it to get stale and have to, kill Zeus 2 more times. That's not, in the book.
They get
but-
to kill Odin.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So we're branching off into Norse mythology, which is fine. So obviously Kratos is hanging up his Blades of Chaos and his son is taken over, and I'm guessing you're going to play as him throughout the rest of the, couple games, maybe a trilogy on fighting the Norse gods. So I don't know. I'm excited for it. I like the series. I'm really willing to give it a good chance and hope for the best.
Yeah, Joe.
Well, as far as the orchestra opening, I wasn't impressed because I'm here to see the games. I'm not here to listen to a freaking symphony orchestra, with their sound quality crushed over a streaming thing, which destroys sound quality as it is. So that was odd. And then they played along live with God of War, which is cool, but I would have rather heard music from the actual game. God of War, I guess they're just calling it God of War for whatever reason. And like Dave says, it could be interesting, but it doesn't really have that God of War feel. There were it looked like there should be QuickTime events, and maybe it was a QuickTime event. They just didn't flash the button for the presentation, because when he was on top of that giant dude stabbing him and doing whatever he did, it should have had square button flashing on the screen that you're supposed to press to do it and stuff like that, but it didn't. So maybe you're just supposed to guess.
Yeah. And just a bow and arrow in your fists. Or I guess that axe. He had that axe that he.
You did have that pretty
Okay,
cool
some
lightning
sort of-
axe thing.
I was
Yeah,
about to say,
you get
plus
some
the
sort of,
axe was like
power on it that
summon.
retrieve it, like the Force or something. But
Yeah, Keith, your thoughts?
As far as the opening, pretty much, I think that the God of War looks pretty interesting. Everybody says, I appreciate the value of showmanship, but I think that was a little over the top. It's like, damn, they took this to a next level. But I like the new God of War feel to it, because I see some of the newer hack and slashes, like for example in Bound, or that one in Ubisoft. Is it Bound or Bound
For
by
Honor.
For Honor, that's it. For Honor, it's taken on that same kind of aspect, the third person, but you kind of go at it a little bit more tactical and whatnot.
Yeah, that's probably the one game that stood out for me from the Ubisoft's press conference, aside from maybe the South Park trailer. And to be truthfully honest, it looks like a watered-down version of Rise, and very heavy on the hack and slash. It looks just pretty generic to me, to be honest.
I'm okay with heavy on the hack and slash.
Yeah, so am I, but I just like to have a little bit more. If they're going to go for this realistic approach, or this semi-realistic approach, I don't need hordes of demons coming at me or whatnot, and I'm in the third person trying to figure out which tactic to go at or whatnot. Make it a little bit challenging, I should say. Almost not like a Dark Souls 3 challenging, but up there.
Yeah, Mark, your thoughts on God of War?
I feel like the presentation that they showed gave everybody what we needed. It gave us an indication of where they're going with the game. It gave us the indication that they're going into Norse mythology. Mechanically speaking, I was not particularly impressed with the idea of God of The Last of Us, but to each their own.
You better not be sneaking around. I don't want to sneak.
Oh,
You're
I
like
hate
a
that.
guy who goes around killing gods. You should be as loud as possible, not sneaking around trying to find an elk.
All right.
But I mean, we'll just have to wait and see what it turns into.
So, I mean, this is probably one of those games that has probably a lot of potential for it, in terms of like all the stuff that Sony has shown off, because they could do so much for it, for us. I mean, sure, we all know how God of War ended up being this game, kind of like like Devil May Cry and all that, where it's like very heavy with the combos and the flashy finishing moves and crazy quick time event attacks and all that stuff. So they could still probably have all of that in the game. It just probably won't be as extremely elaborate. I mean, we did see some pretty cool finishers where he's bashing like monsters' heads into the wall and stuff like that and ripping them apart, which was very satisfying, it looked like, even though I wasn't playing the game. But again, it's in a third-person perspective, which means already you got your mindset being changed. Whereas you like in the old games, you could just pretty much run around in any direction as it is. Now you gotta strafe and walk backwards and turn around now, which kind of like, I guess some people aren't going to like that change, but I guess I'm willing to give it a chance regardless.
Right.
I would like to see more solid stuff on it, probably either through the months or even, I would say, E3 next year. We'll probably see like a solid, like maybe a playable demo and probably like a release date, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For that one.
It's going to be the kid. I'm telling you, you're going to play as a kid.
That could be a possibility. They might pull a Red Dead Redemption on us, very at the ending. Oh, spoilers. Well, that's like a 5-year-old game now. If you haven't beaten
I was about to say, statute of limitation, damn it.
Exactly.
I still have that game sealed. I still haven't played it.
Sephiroth kills Aerith. Okay, there.
Dude, he just broke the internet, Hubs.
I broke the internet. Yeah. If they didn't figure that out 19 years later, they can go to hell.
Same way as Kennedy is dead. What?
Now, actually, here's the game. Now, here's the game that I actually have the most interest in right now. This is a game they took a good look at the Sony press conference. That's Horizon New Dawn. That is probably the game that I am heavily invested in right now because one, I like the art direction. It's very reminiscent of Roger Dean's art style for like the box art he did for like Shadow the Beast. And all of his other pieces of art, which are pretty cool, where he has this organic, mechanical feel to everything. Like, you run around, you see these giant mechanized hulks of beasts roaming the forest, and you gotta, like, take them out, and you gotta harvest them for technology and stuff like that. The game just looks phenomenal. I just really don't know how to...
does. They made mention of it last year, which was pretty awesome.
They did. So... They only showed a small clip of it, and it looked impressive then, but they had a more in-depth look at it this time,
yes.
And I'm just like... jaw to the floor. So, but how about you, Mark? What did you think of Horizon?
It looks like an open world techno-organic Monster Hunter in a lot of respects, mixed with some Far Cry.
I'm sick of this.
So I'm for it at this point. I'd like to see a little bit more, or hopefully get a demo before its launch, to get a more complete opinion. But at this point, it's probably one of the games that I was most definitively looking forward to coming out of the conference.
How about you, Joe? What did you think of it?
I do like you. I like the design, the techno organic stuff. That stuff is really cool. The first thing though that caught my eye is the graphics, and while they're really good, at the same time as she's moving, they're like drawing in. I see the shadows fading in like only 20 feet away from her, and it's just like, I didn't like that. Hopefully they can fix that before the game comes out. Otherwise, personally, I think the game is a little too over-designed for my tastes. Too much to learn. It's not one of those games where you can just put down for a few weeks and come back to it and know what you're doing. It seems to be reliant on story. I don't know.
How about you,
I don't
Dave?
really have a lot of time to just play games, like just straight through.
Yeah,
I don't know where everyone else finds the time. I don't
Well, of
know.
course, you got an episode. You got TVs that
Right.
to put out bi-weekly now.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to beat Uncharted 4, so.
Yeah. I've only played 3 hours of Uncharted 4. I've played it once. I haven't played it second time yet. 'Cause I just don't have time.
Yeah, it's hard
So these games that are just like major time sinks are just that one looks like a major time sink, and I just don't have the time.
Yeah, being an adult sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
it does. Damn it.
So, what did you think, Joe, of Horizon?
You already asked.
You already asked. You already
You know,
asked. Joe.
honestly, I don't
Well,
have-
I asked
watched-
Joe, but I accidentally asked Dave at the very end of his comments.
That's all right. I don't have an opinion. I haven't watched the trailer yet, so I don't have anything to say for you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So, before we wrap up, move on to our next section real quick. We'll be talking to you, Dave and Joe, getting caught up. What do you think was your pick of the press conferences that we've seen so far? We'll start with you, Keith.
Believe it or not, I'm actually going to go really, really off on this one because I actually really thought this looked like a really cool game. Kind of picking up off the same vibe as Lost or the New Horizon, but not as detailed as Recore on Xbox. That looked really, really cool. Like you get to have like the different robots, and they all have like the different abilities, like that you can kind of summon upon. That looked like a really, really cool game. And plus, I'm so excited that you can make custom soundtracks in your games now through Xbox Live, which is going to be really cool for like streaming and whatnot.
Okay. How about you, Mark? Anything you liked?
That we saw actual gameplay footage on.
Yeah.
I would say probably either Mass Effect Andromeda or the new Spider-Man from Irrational. Mass Effect Andromeda, just because the ending of the third game notwithstanding, I'm a huge fan of Mass Effect. I think it's a great franchise. I think it does a lot of things really well in terms of the sci-fi space opera, and I'm interested to see where they go with it. And Spider-Man from Irrational, because, look, if they can't make a great expectation-defying Spider-Man game, pack it in. Put Spider-Man away. If they can't do it, nobody can at this point. Like, if I liked Web of Shadows and whatnot, but the last really great, like, universally beloved Spider-Man game was probably the one on the Sega CD.
Spider-Man versus the Kingpin?
Yes.
Really?
Maybe the very first Activision game.
I would say probably Spider-Man on the PlayStation or Spider-Man 2 on the PS2. But
Spider-Man 2 is very much a love it or hate it experience.
I think we had this conversation.
Yeah,
I think we did. We
I
did
love
it.
You know, I love it. Yahtzee loves it. A lot of people love it, but a lot of people also hate the direction that Spider-Man has gone in. They think that the games are underwhelming and mechanically ill-defined, and you know, it is what it is. But I'm saying if Irrational can't do it at this point, I don't really think anybody can.
Okay. How about you, Dave? Out of anything you've seen so far or you've read about, did you have a pick?
No, it's nothing really was amazing. I mean, I knew they were going to mention some God of War, and I'm happy about that. The only thing that was really getting me interested was every time that PR guy on Sony would walk out on the stage, they'd play the music from Return Fire. So I was kept hoping that the Return Fire game was coming out, but sadly, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I also want to say South Park, which looked absolutely phenomenal and funny.
Hey, Stick of Truth was great, and I have high hopes for this new one that's coming out. It's just the trailer alone, just make the way they were mocking the Marvel Universe movies was just great. And Joe, what was your pick? Would you say for the E3 conferences?
It was a very underwhelming E3 for me, but you know, a few games do look interesting. I mean, they only showed like maybe 30 seconds of it, if that. The Last Guardian. I'm interested to see more of that. Resident Evil 7 is interesting, but I don't know if I could really take it as a first-person game. That's just too weird. But it's interesting. I wouldn't play it in a VR mode. I just play with a controller.
Yeah, that is actually kind of weird. That would be the big surprise for me that I saw at E3 was the fact that, oh hey, look, they're gonna cock tease us with The Last Guardian again, and then they just showed that release date at the very end. I was just like,
Wow.
oh, okay, so that they're being serious.
I know. Wow.
So it was a shocker. So, I believe it was 3 years ago that you guys were last on the show. It seems like a while. Probably most of the
That's
people in
probably
the
more than
audience don't
that.
even know that you were actually on the show. In case people who are in the chat room were watching last time, you'll notice complete lack of kitchen and my wife cleaning the dishes.
Missed that.
Yeah.
Moving on up, Robert.
What? Yeah, I moved the camera slightly to the left.
Do a little pan. Let's see what's going on over
Yeah, you want to see? All right, let's. Woo! There we go. All right, back on my ugly face. Anyway, so now we're having too much fun. So now that you guys have been doing this for over 5 years now, GameSack, you're running strong. You just let's talk about something that just recently happened. You had to take a month-long break. What came to that decision that you needed a break like that, for that long, for that matter, and why did you guys have such a huge fear that you might lose your a chunk of your fan base just from that break?
Well, we were overworked. Dave will attest to. We do have lives outside of the show. And we were doing it once a week at that time, and it really didn't help us with any additional gains. You know, we didn't grow our audience with it or anything like that. So it was kind of like almost working for nothing. And but we needed the break. We had never really taken one before. I don't think I really need to justify taking a vacation, because
No,
I
you
think
don't.
everyone feels like they need to take a break from whatever it is they do from time to time. And the reason I felt like we might lose some of our audience is because we wouldn't be uploading regular content. And we did. Some people did unsubscribe. People didn't, not everyone knew we were taking a break, and people would comment on older videos like, "Oh, if you don't upload something soon, I'm unsubscribe." And we've also gotten some comments like from people saying, "Oh, I'm glad you're back, resubscribe," stuff like that. So it's just, if you're not constantly pushing stuff out, people forget about you and they just unsubscribe. They don't care.
Okay. So making weekly episodes, you've stopped doing that. You're now doing bi-weekly. So does that give you more time to pretty much, plan out an episode the way you want it to and all that stuff?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so now with all this extra freedom and time that you have, you're now experimenting. The first episode you had when you came back, you kind of made fun of your fellow YouTube members. Tell us
No,
the
that was
thought.
actually the third one.
Oh, that was the third one?
The first one when we came back was the PS2.
It's too.
But
Yes.
yes,
I
yes.
got the order mixed up actually, but
Yeah, that's okay though, because we actually made that one before we made the PS2 episode. So that break definitely let us handle that.
Yeah.
And it really decreased the stress a lot, and we're a lot less stressed now as a result.
Yeah, by all means. I know on my end I'm way less stressed. I have actually time to spend with my wife and kid, and not that I didn't before, but I always felt I had to regiment, like, okay, I'll go to work, I'll come home, work on GameSack for an hour, go pick up my daughter from school, spend an hour or two with her, eat dinner, then come back downstairs and work on GameSack for a couple more hours, and then go to bed, and try to stick to that every day. And I think it got tough. It really did. But the break was great, and now that we're doing back to the every other week episode, it's it's nice. I have more time. I don't have to sit here and budget it and say I've got to do this then and this now and this in the future. It's just more relaxed. So I think we're both happier in that sense. Not that we were really butting heads or anything. We weren't doing that, but.
Plus, it allows you to make some better content, so you can craft it a lot better. Put a little bit
Yeah,
more
yeah.
tender love and care inside of
Yeah.
it. I understand that completely, man.
Right. So it's good, and the episodes have remained their they're 25 to 30-minute length. And, we're which people seem to like, and that's good for us. I like them too.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. It seems to be.
Yahtzee!
Yeah, something seemed to have happened with my. I think my USB port is shorting out or something like that. So I'm probably gonna have to get myself a new Yeti soon. Which I'm
You
not.
should have panned that camera. You did something with your audio.
Yeah, you know what? That's probably it.
What was the last thing you guys heard?
I saw your lips moving, and that's it.
Yeah, Dave's. Yeah, your Joe's lips started moving. I was just like, wait up, somebody's not. Something's wrong here. Okay, but everything's working now. I'm gonna probably have to shell out some money.
I was saying, like, we're about 2.5 weeks ahead. We've got 2.5 episodes in the can. Every time we release an episode, we've got 2.5 episodes completely done. So, like, if something happens, like, Dave needs to get his leg amputated or something like that, we'll have a week or two for him to heal.
Right.
That's down
Yeah,
here
grow it back, Dave.
There's some gangrene going on down there, so.
So, let's talk about something. A couple of the endeavors that you've been working on. One of those things was, I believe, last time you mentioned it, you're working on with a bunch of other YouTubers about a website, which thus became Final Bosses. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came to be and what's it all about?
Well, just some of us got together, and basically the reasoning was, in case something happens with YouTube, if they get too crazy with their copyright stuff and all that. We haven't really had any problem with that personally, but there are some trying to think and talk at the same time, are some things that we have done that we could never have released on YouTube, like our episode about how game music is ripping off normal music and stuff like that, because we get flagged 6 ways from Sunday. And so it's a good outlet for stuff like that. And plus, it's a fallback if something happens on YouTube, because it has its own video player.
Okay, so you actually have a whole bunch of different types of video series that you do on there. You got like Playing with Sack. Love the title, by the way. And then you got your music videos on there. Now, there's also other people that you work on. Could you tell us who they are? I mean, one of them I know is Alpha Omega Sin.
Mm-hmm.
And who are the other guys?
It's Happy Console Gamer, Johnny Millennium, Shane from Rerez, the Game Chasers, 8-Bit Eric, and I don't think I'm missing anybody. Did I mention everyone, Dave?
You have. I mean, there's been talks about including new people in there, but I don't think anybody was ever added.
Yeah.
Okay. So, who do you think provides the most content on this site? I mean, Alpha Omega Sin seems to be able to push out his rant videos almost every other day because something's out there is pissing him off.
It's mad.
Well, yeah,
Anger.
depends on what you mean by content. If you mean exclusive content, probably us. Though Eric and Jay from Game Chasers and their friend Jordan have a podcast called Chodcast that they post there, but I don't know if that would be exclusive to the site since they also post that on YouTube.
Okay. Have you guys played around with the idea of live streaming some of your gaming? Like when you're doing your recording sessions for your games, have you guys thought about maybe doing live streaming?
Never.
Never?
Because number one, I don't like people watching me just play games, and number 2, it gives away exactly what we're doing, and I kind of like to keep that under wraps. So.
Okay. So, how about you, Dave? Have you ever thought about the idea of streaming, or do you share the same sentiments as Joe?
Yeah, I never really have. I mean, I don't watch people live stream games. It just really doesn't interest me. But, I've never thought about doing it on my own. I mean, there's probably a handful of games I'd play that I'd actually like because I think to live stream, for me, it'd be like, I need to play a game that I'm good at because I don't want people to think I'm just some idiot. I mean, you want to keep it interesting. You want to be able to get somewhere where it's interesting and not just flounder on a level or two and say, well, sorry for the last half hour. I wasn't able to get anywhere, so thanks for watching. That's kind of a fear. I don't want to have something like that happen. So it really doesn't interest me to do something like that.
Okay. Mark or Keith, did you guys have any questions you possibly want to throw at them?
Not really. I mean, pretty much you answered it. I don't know if it would be redundant or whatnot. I'm not really sure if you asked that question directly, Hubs. Is that how did you guys really come to be with like all these other YouTubers and whatnot that made you really decide to make the final bosses? Besides just the copyright laws that you were saying previously that YouTube is like. I think that's awesome. I think guys should do that like full time almost because you're probably going to get more hits for that. Or do you think that would be like even better, or even like Hub said, like doing a stream like every so often?
Well, we got together with those guys because they were just our online friends. So we all big group of friends. We all maintain a chat on Facebook. We're always chatting in it and stuff like that. So we just all know each other. We're all friends. As far as the man, I had another point I was going to make that you brought up, but I slipped my mind. Sorry, I'm Alzheimer's.
Damn.
But yes. Getting people to go to final bosses from YouTube is a lot harder than you might think because people just like to stay on YouTube. A problem we have with final bosses is that people can't just pull it up and watch it on their TV with an app. And people like, using the YouTube app to watch stuff on their TV or their Twitch app, maybe in this case. And there is no Final Bosses app for your PlayStation 4, stuff like that. And so that's kind of a limiting factor. You can't really direct a lot of the audience there, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's kind of the thing that groups like Channel Awesome have run into as well. When they became big on the internet early on in their careers, it didn't necessarily translate into the modern era just because a lot of teenagers, young adults are, as you said, going to the PlayStation app or the Roku app or using it on their iPads or whatever devices, and it doesn't translate as well to those devices going through an in-app player, in-website player.
Yeah.
So, scaling back just to a question I actually forgot to ask about earlier, in regards to being able to make new episodes with different kinds of content and all that stuff, kind of like with the making fun of your YouTube friends. Are you guys going to are there any other ideas that you're wanting to experiment with? Like what are you looking to maybe probably do in the future, or do you want to save that as a secret?
Well, I can probably answer honestly now. Yes, there are ideas, but I don't know what they are because we haven't thought of them yet. But yes, we would like to branch out, throw something and see if it sticks, like we just did with this week's episode about video game music. Most people are liking it, but it's not like doing tremendously well like the previous one did, which surprised the hell out of me about copycat games. It's like, I don't know what it is about that, but people really were interested in that. But not so much game music, which kind of disappoints me. It's not doing bad.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, then again, it's only been like a day since you uploaded it, so give it a shot.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Now,
I want more parody episodes for sure.
Another
take a while.
Another Left in Japan coming up, probably.
Hopefully, I have some games for that.
Yeah. Now, in regards to, let's say, you're running out of console episodes, I guess you're going to be doing soon. I mean, you just did the PS2, and the last couple of systems, you've been running your episodes pretty long, like almost 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. Like, do you think you know what your next console is going to be, or are you going to maybe wait on a fan to possibly loan one out to you guys?
Yes, we know what our next console is going to be because we've already done that episode. But we'll eventually run out, but we still have so many more to do. I mean, I turn around and I look at the consoles I have there, and that's not even all of them. And, only some of them we've done an episode on. So I think we've got a long way to go. Mark from Classic Game Room is going to send us an MSX2, not alone. So that'll be cool. Hopefully that comes pretty soon, and, we get everything sorted out with that, and we can do an episode about that. But that'll be kind of down the line. Okay.
I gotta toot my horn. Yeah, I was happy to I was very happy to contribute to an episode of yours by loaning you that Amiga CD32, although I have to say you guys didn't seem to enjoy it too well.
Well, thanks anyway. I mean, we still appreciate making an episode.
I mean, I actually enjoyed the episode, and yeah, to be truthfully honest, as much as I enjoy the system, mostly for the nostalgia factor, but the games weren't that great.
Yeah.
You have a hard time with the directional pad not being perfectly up and down and left and right.
Yeah, that's the thing about European PC gaming. For whatever reason, back in the early '90s, they had to press up to jump. They didn't think, oh, you know what? We have another button here on the controller. Let's use that.
Yeah.
But thank you, by the way, for fixing it. You almost gave me a heart attack when you said it wasn't spinning discs.
Yeah. That's the way that thing is just so weird. It's like I don't know what they were thinking when they designed that thing. It's just
Yeah,
so
I mean, I was kind of freaked out by the fact that I'm sitting here looking for a button to open up the CD tray. No, you just simply flip it up. That almost kind of irked me right there.
Yeah. Interesting. It's still a very interesting console, though. I mean, especially when it doubles as like an Amiga 1200 and stuff like that. If you add a keyboard and mouse and stuff like that, I don't know. I just want to say stuff like that once more.
Mm-hmm. That was kind of an interesting idea. And now, is there the possibility of you maybe doing, let's say, follow-up episodes to console episodes where you talk about more of the games and maybe extra peripherals and stuff like that might have come out for like the system? Like maybe you'll talk about like online games for the PS2 and the modem and the broadband adapter, hard drive, and all that stuff.
Yeah, we've actually done something similar to that in the past. Like we'll have like all the shooters for the Genesis or stuff like that, or Super Nintendo shooters. We've done a couple of those. Yeah, we'll definitely do something like that, but it might be, I don't know if we'll do accessories because we don't really have a whole bunch of those. If we get enough, then yeah, we definitely will.
Mm-hmm.
An online game for old systems is going to be impossible since
Yeah,
you can't play them online.
this game doesn't play very well at all.
Cannot connect.
Are you guys going to pick up any more of the actual series-focused games? Because some of those that you actually have are pretty good on there.
Yeah, I really want to, but I haven't really thought about it much. But we really should.
Yeah, the Castlevania series has always been on the block, on our list of a series to tackle, but it's a big one, and you got to know the history of it pretty well because, I don't want to get called out for.
It's only going to make one wrong mistake.
Yes,
That's all you got to make, and everyone will
Eat you alive.
Played you.
Probably one of my other favorite things that you guys do from time to time is talking about like system modding, and you talk about how you like the Japanese systems with their enhanced like sound chips and some of the systems like that. How did you just talking to your buddy who does all the modding? Is that how you found out about like the modding for like better sound quality and stuff like that? And like how many out of how many games do you usually play actually have like the built-in extra sound channels and all that stuff?
Well, that depends. Like Bill, I've known forever, but I do want to make another episode about console modding with Bill. So we do something. I don't know what we're gonna do. We thought about maybe modding an NES with RGB, and some other things.
It's crazy.
Just trying to get. I mean, both of our NESs are already modded with RGB, but it's just trying to get together with him and find the time to do that and make sure he's ready. And it's harder than it sounds. Yeah. But as far as like systems with extra sound chips, or games rather, like on the Famicom, it's just research. The only one I have is the Japanese version of Castlevania 3, which is cool. And there's a few others. People have suggested we try, like, I think it's called Lagrange Point or something, but it's a really weird shaped cartridge and it will not fit in the NES with an adapter. So that's going to be tough to play unless you have a top loader that's modified. So all that stuff is fun.
Or they're expensive. Like Contra is another one that has that extra sound chip and graphics going.
It doesn't.
Oh, it's the graphics.
Yeah.
But anyways, that game is not cheap.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just talk to the audience real quick. Okay, guys. So we'll try this again. If you guys got any questions, get them ready. Let us know, and I'll start relaying them to Dave and Joe. I got a couple more questions I'd like to ask you guys real quick. One of the things, now that Joe, you talked about. Actually, it's kind of weird. Actually, now I have to mention this. First off, I want to talk about the Orlando shooting incident. In fact, the last time we talked,
The Aurora. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about Aurora on the show, and now it was like literally like a couple of weeks after, I believe, was when we had the show.
No, I think it's a couple of days, if I recall.
Yeah, and now we're literally having this show a few days after the one in Orlando, and just violence and gun shooting and all that stuff. It's just my heart bleeds for the people who've lost their loved ones at a nightclub in Orlando, Florida. So I guess I just want to get that out of the way. I probably should have mentioned it at the beginning of the show, but it just seems like a weird coincidence to me. It just seems like gun violence in the country with just nut jobs all over the place is just escalating. And I mean, granted, we now have ISIS to blame for. We can't really blame video games in this case, like they tried to do, I guess, with the Aurora shooter, ruining everyone's
day. He played Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, it's not really.
Yeah, he was just a nut job on his own accord. So
yeah.
Sometimes a nut job is a nut job. You know, you can't really blame. There's not always something to blame except for the person himself or herself.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so crap. Actually, I just forgot the question I had because the Orlando thing just popped up into my head. So let's go right straight to the audience. Do you guys got any good questions for Dave and Joe? I am not seeing anything so far. All right. Well, how about this? Obviously,
I have questions.
Mark, you have questions finally?
I had questions like 20 minutes ago. You just talk too much.
I do. Well, actually, half the time I don't really talk that much. I let you guys usually do most of the talking. So, fair enough, Mark. Please go crazy.
So, the one thing I noticed is, because a friend of mine recommended me the channel a couple of years ago, and I've kept up with watching the videos routinely, but as you had mentioned, I had never really checked the links and seen that there was pass-through on that. And I noticed that you guys are running a Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have any experience with it, but I've seen that a lot of content creators in the world of video games have been working with that. So I was curious, like, what's your experience with that? Has it been helping you guys? Is it helping you guys develop the product more? Is it putting money into your own pockets, I hope?
Yeah, it's really great. Dave's almost got a yacht, and I'm ready to buy new mansion.
That's why his apartment smells of rich mahogany.
Yeah. It definitely does help, but it's not something that you can like rely absolutely on, because people will change their pledges willy-nilly, and they're free to do so. So whatever comes in helps. I might be able to buy, like, I started buying stuff like this to put more up downstairs in the studio, more sound insulation stuff. And if it doesn't come in, then it doesn't come in. But people change their stuff willy-nilly, and so you don't always get an exact amount each month. But what I am happy about is that we haven't gotten a lot of the negative backlash that so many other channels do for having a Patreon. And they advertise it, and people just go nuts, and they just like really hammer into them. They think they're e-begging, and they're really not. They're just trying to sustain the quality of their channel. So it's really, I don't know.
And the money that I get from, I definitely try to put it back in by buying stuff like the FrameMeister, recording equipment, or even games. That might sound silly, but that's games for a future episode that could be, recorded and talked about.
Yep.
So
I've done that. I've bought games specifically to talk about on an episode, like Ninja Gaiden Black, which is coming up in the next episode. Ooh. And it's like, I don't have Ninja Gaiden Black, or the same with Ninja Gaiden Sigma. I bought that one too. So I was like, I need these. I'm gonna buy them. So I did.
Mm-hmm. So there.
And it gets a wife off your back for like, why are you spending this money? This is supposed to go.
So, when did you guys decide to go with the idea of using a Patreon to back or to mostly fund GameSack?
It doesn't mostly fund it. It supplements it.
Supplements. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, GameSack is still primarily funded by YouTube ads, and the Patreon really helps though, because again, YouTube also. I mean, it's more stable, but you don't know how well episodes are going to do and stuff like that. Like our parody episode which we spent a lot of time on, and people generally liked. I haven't saw very, very few negative comments on. It made, less money in like 3 or 4 weeks than a regular episode does in a day. And the reason for that is because it's shorter. And YouTube rewards you the longer you keep people on the site. It's weird the way it works, but that's how it works. And so it enables us to do more episodes like the parody episodes. And we are, even if it didn't make much money at all, which it hasn't, we're still going to do more if I can squeeze any performances out of myself. But I really like doing stuff like that. So it really helps with stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mark, you got another question?
This isn't necessarily like a group thing, but it's more to Joe directly. Because I was a kid who also grew up with the Sega Master System, like exclusively. So I was just curious, your best and worst Master System game.
Oh wow, best Phantasy Star is the first thing that comes into my mind. I love that game. Right up there is Space Harrier stuff. Worst,
Yes, Space Harrier.
yeah, worst. I'm trying to think of the worst.
I think I know Mark.
I'm hoping for a
High-Tech
specific
World.
one.
I don't know if that's truly a bad game because I refuse to let myself sink into it too much. But back when I first rented it, I was just so disappointed with Alex Kidd in High Tech World.
Oh, that game is an absolute mess. I was
Yeah.
hoping for Alf though, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never rented that back in the day. So
I have to say, that was a
so
pretty
bad.
fun stream night right there when you were streaming Alpha, Mark. Just you constantly screaming about the stupid crap.
That is easily one of the 3 worst video games I've ever played. I will never change my mind about that.
So, okay, so now that you guys actually have been doing a lot more lately, like the past year, you guys started going to a lot of conventions. Actually, at Too Many Games, you guys had a chance to speak at a panel. Are you guys possibly going to do that again in the future, or are you taking a break and then you're going to do it here and there?
we're taking a break this year from conventions. We went to, I think, at least maybe 4 of them last year,
Sure.
and panels at each. For some reason, cons, I mean, they didn't do this at Too Many Games, but other cons have, they keep scheduling us for panels on Sunday when no one's there. No, people did show up at Portland, which was cool.
Yeah.
But no one showed up at Retropalooza, so that was kind of disappointing. But I think maybe that's because we were there the previous year. I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
It's hard to say. I mean, I want to say that they scheduled this later on Sunday to try to keep people around.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
more,
what it
but I
is.
think that was kind of part of the reason. But
Yeah.
conventions are great. I enjoy going to them, but again, it is 8 to 10 hours of standing around and as odd as it is, taking pictures and signing autographs. Which I don't mind at all. I think it's really cool, but it's just kind of a strange feeling. When you feel like I'm just like a normal guy like you. Why do you want
A
to
normal guy with thousands and thousands of fans.
Yeah.
It's
So
like
I
I
think
just
the
bought
point
the
he's trying
soda
to make
over
is we
there.
don't feel special about ourselves in that any kind of celebrity way. I don't mind the standing around so much as the travel itself, which is it takes so much to prepare and go and then come back and then just dealing with all that. That's the part that I really don't like. The
Right.
actually being there isn't too bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you guys want to take a chance to plug your little Blu-ray that you just recently made a couple months ago. Tell us
Yeah.
about that production, why you decided to go with as many episodes as you did.
Well, the Blu-ray, we just wanted to get that out there because people like the Game Chasers have DVDs, AVGN has DVDs and stuff like that, and it's worked out pretty well for them. And we figured we'd give it a try, and plus, I like Blu-rays. I think it'd be sweet to have a Blu-ray, so we made one. We crammed 20 episodes on there, though they're shorter episodes because they're the earlier ones, and a lot of extra content. And it's turned out pretty well so far. We're doing a second one, probably going to be released later this year. Won't be able to have as many episodes on because the episodes are getting longer and longer, and so it's kind of hard to squeeze them on there. But we're going to definitely do our best to have plenty of exclusive content because you don't want just episodes on there. How boring is that? You can watch them on YouTube. So we want to give people a reason to actually want to watch it other than just the episodes.
Yeah. You see how we interacted before GameSack.
There you go.
A lot of older stuff on there that's kind of
Yeah, and the next
a long time ago.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of that, and then what we're working on for this Blu-ray is a making of an actual GameSack episode from, inception to actual release.
Ooh.
Yeah,
So
that's gonna be fun.
now, at the end of almost every episode, I guess it was a couple years ago you started doing this, but now at the end of every episode, you got like a small, like 2 or 3 minute skit that you guys been doing. I guess you guys been starting after you included like some of the stuff you said you recorded years and years ago, and then I guess that was popular enough. Is that what inspired you to start doing those little skits at the end?
Nah, we've been doing them since the beginning. We just did them just because they're fun, just to take a break from just sitting on our ass and reviewing games, just doing something a little different, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're just fun. Some we think about usually the day that we're filming the episode.
Yeah.
So it's right off the cuff type of stuff that we at that moment find very funny, and we usually get a lot of good feedback about that people do like the Indians.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They love what we've done and stuff like that. So it's good and it keeps us going. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't see that. I mean, a lot of people do, but not everybody. I think they just tune out right when the credits start. So
yeah,
if you guys watch, after the credits,
watch.
we always have something extremely stupid.
Keith, or do you have anything you want to ask?
Probably like the last thing, and it's like really cliche and it's really, really cheesy, but do you have any advice to like somebody like myself? I'm trying to get into the industry, like gaming and also in YouTube, try to like create like my little multimedia sort of empire, for lack of a better term. Any suggestions for like any of us out there for that?
Be consistent is about the best. I mean, try to do your own thing, obviously, and most importantly, like what you do. If you're not liking what you're doing, then your content isn't going to be as good. But if you can be consistent, like have a steady release schedule, and people will latch on to that, and if they like your stuff, hopefully it will work out. It's a little harder now because it's getting so crowded. So.
Well, that's what I was more thinking. It's like, since it's starting to become so crowded, like
Yeah.
Yeah, you got literally everything from character actors screaming and cursing at bad video games. You got people who are obsessed with Truxton. You got pretty much amazing.
Truxton was great, man.
I'm not going to deny that.
I love that episode that you guys did. So brilliant.
I mean, you got a whole different you got people like the Happy Video Game Nerd, and you got people like the amazing Dwayne and Brando and Brentalfloss, who take video game music and put lyrics on top of it. I mean, it seems like at this point in time, people are running out of ideas to make an original game show. So what do you think would be the best way to break the mold besides being consistent and all that stuff?
I mean, that's hard to say. I mean, because you develop your own personality, and that's why people I think watch shows. Because you can relate to the personality of the person talking.
Well,
and,
no, go ahead, Dave.
No, that's
okay. You are done. Then I will continue. If you want to get a lot of subs and you want a lot of people watching, have a big-breasted woman on there playing video games. Those channels, they get tons of subs. I mean, sure, your content's going to be crap. You're going to hate your life, but you'll have lots of subs.
Yeah.
And apparently I'll have a big-chested woman right next to me,
No,
too.
that's a plus.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. Mark, do you have any more questions you would like to ask?
I have kind of an odd question, just because I've never really been in a podcast before where there's been people all roughly around the same age group. Usually the people that I interact with are skew younger. One thing I found interesting is to just realize, for me personally, I've been around since the first console generation. And I imagine for Rob, Joe, and David, it's kind of been first to third console generation was where you got your start. I'm just curious what your impressions are watching the industry grow up alongside you.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good.
That's a deep question. Wow.
It is.
This is why I like Mark, everybody.
Who's going to go first?
For me, it's just cool watching these companies experiment with different things. From Nintendo and their trying to make it easier for gamers to get into with motion controls and seeing the reaction from the community on that. Where I personally liked it for a while, and then now I'm kind of sick of it. I don't want to do motion controls. To companies that I don't know, like Sony, that's stuck with their grew out of making a CD-ROM for Nintendo and stuck with their model going all the way through, and they're still plugging strong on the console side. They messed with the motion controls with the PS Move. Obviously they didn't support that, thank God, because but I guess the PS4 still has it on there, but
It's not like anyone's using it.
Huh.
There was one game, God, what was it?
Oh,
That I would, Tearaway.
Oh, okay.
Slightly uses it. I started playing that game and I like the PS Vita version, and I started playing it on the PS4, but I never finished it. But I just like watching the industry experimenting with different types of things, seeing how what sticks, what doesn't stick, and as long as they keep falling back on some of their awesome IPs, I'm fine. As long as there's something good that out there to play, I'm fine.
How about you, Joe?
Well, similar story to Dave, but yeah, I've kind of noticed a different trend as far as games go, and that's that these days almost every single game, almost without exception, has to have a very deep story. And I find that very interesting because, back in the early days of gaming, they'd just be like a paragraph in the instruction manual and that's it. And nowadays it's like story first, gameplay is built around that, which is interesting. Not that that's necessarily bad, because it can come together and work, like in Uncharted 2 and a whole bunch of other games where it works. And I just think that's very interesting, where story is almost a first priority these days in a lot of games, not all.
Eternal Odyssey was like one of those games, or
Which
that
one?
that episodic one. Damn it! It was.
There's a lot of episodic games. Come on now.
Yeah.
To be fair, I feel like it would be hard to make a game in 2016 where the story comes down to, are you a bad enough dude to rescue the president?
I would love that.
Sadly, you're right. I mean,
Stupid.
God damn! I forget which one it was, but it was made by the guys that did Blue Dragon. It was a Mistwalker game. Damn, I forget what the hell it was.
Lost Odyssey?
Lost Odyssey, that was it. Where they made the story first, and then effectively, like, it went downhill from there.
Yeah.
I guess I got one last question for you guys before I guess we call it a night. When are you guys going to start doing PC games?
Well, that's a loaded question.
I understand there's probably some technical issues that might arise with something like that.
Yes.
DOSBox fixes
owning a
everything.
PC is the first thing.
Yeah, DOSBox. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I wonder if I could run that virtually, because we both have Macs. I can run I have Windows 8 that I run virtually on my system, and then I've used that to capture a few games for the show, like East Origins and I think some other game I can't remember. Postal too and stuff like that. So it runs okay. And but as far as like covering the main stuff, we'd have to get like new rigs, and then I imagine we just output HDMI into the Elgato, and then that'd be it. But it's just something that I don't know. It just for some reason doesn't appeal to me. Just all the tediousness. Like a console, you just put in a game, turn it on, wait for it to install for an hour, and
Yeah, you don't have to worry about a game possibly crashing in the middle of your experience and stuff like that.
or driver issues, controller issues. Like some indie developer sent me what looks like a really cool game, and it even had a Mac version, and I loaded it up, and it said, well, it'll work with your Xbox 360 controller. So I plugged in my Xbox 360 controller directly with USB. It wouldn't recognize it, and I was like, sorry, man, I'd love to play your game, but I don't feel like working out this controller issue. Got it worked out. See ya. So
We actually had
I don't like to deal with.
We had a question from the audience here. I'm not sure if anybody saw it. It says, Joe and Dave, what's your favorite after credit skit?
Mine probably that one we did for the Sega CD episode, which was we did like not long after. It was like, I think that's the one when you first interviewed us. That's
That
the one
was a
we just
while
got
ago,
done
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's because we're trying to make fun of an old school Sega CD game where I'm like such a badass. Dave's going on vacation. It was fun. You just be GameSack, bitch.
I don't know. The one that I liked, even though it was probably one of our shortest ones, was when we mimicked Road Rash and we got on two of Joe's bikes. I had like a rake or something, and I don't know what you had.
Sprinkler extension, or maybe I did. I don't
We just kind of rode off and we're hitting each other. And, I don't know.
I'd love to do that.
Okay. Oh, we got another question from the audience. It's what is your favorite part of the creating process of an episode?
Playing the games, honestly.
Oh yeah,
Probably.
playing the games is definitely good.
Was that
Yeah.
like the part where you get the most stress out?
No, it's just fun. You're just playing the games and you're thinking about, oh, I'd like to mention that, and like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool, and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's just really neat. My least favorite part is doing the voiceover.
Yeah. I assume you do many outtakes for that, right? Are you going to possibly do like a blooper reel of that? And I believe I actually asked you that last time. I don't think you had a definitive answer.
No, I
Kind
still
of had
don't.
a reel on an indie.
I don't usually keep like a lot of the. I mean, I have some here and there, but I don't keep a lot of like, not at least during the voiceovers. A lot of the bad takes, because we just start the sentence over again. It's very mundane.
But there was one episode that you did have one of your takes on there where your voice was cracking and it was just basically failing, and then you just had to stop and record the next day.
Yeah, that's right. I made that into an ending skit where
Yes.
I was trying to talk about elevator action returns, and for whatever reason, my voice was failing. Probably because I had yelled at some point earlier in the episode delivering the script, and by the time I got to that game, my voice was it just didn't work very well. So I kept having to stop and start over the sentence. So I made that into an ending skit. I think that was on one of the Left in Japan's, the most recent Left in Japan.
I found that to be very funny. But
Okay, so before we end the show, Mark or Keith, you have maybe one last question?
I'm good.
Okay. We got a silly question right here. Where can I watch your pre-GameSack videos?
On the Blu-ray.
great.
Or unless you break into my house, which you're welcome to do, you can grab my old hiatus.
Well,
Yeah, how
I'll tell
about
them that somebody might do it.
Oh God.
So people have
yeah.
tried. Not fans, but people have tried.
Uh-oh. What's Dave doing?
Hold on.
Getting his mini discs.
Let's see if I can zoom in on. What's Dave doing?
Sorry, I thought I had a stack of what we used to call junk DVDs, which contain all of our episodes on them, but I don't see them in the filing cabinet where I had them. So.
Well, you better not have lost them.
No, I
Uh-oh.
haven't lost them. They're
Okay.
still exactly where at the moment.
Yeah. we
Okay,
used to
well,
put our-
here, I guess I can keep going for just a little bit. I mean, the questions are finally starting to come, even though I asked these guys like 25 minutes ago. They're asking you, how do you, Dave, Joe, does YouTube trolls ever get to you?
Yeah, they piss me off, but you got to ignore it. It's sometimes hard,
Right.
but yeah, you got to ignore it.
Yeah, you do. I mean, why. There's no point in letting it get to you because that's all they're doing is trying to.
And I find that if you do
Right,
ignore it and you don't respond, you forget about it like 3 minutes later. It's like you don't even remember it. So that's probably a very good advice for anyone on the internet. Just ignore the trolls.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Dave, Joe, thank you once again for joining us a few years later, catching up with you guys. It was great. Even though we had some technical difficulties, which were actually on my end this time as opposed to yours, where we had issues with the mic.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
thank you once again. To everybody out there, our next episode is going to be on June 27th. Like I said, every bi-weekly on Mondays, 9 p.m., unless, of course, something comes up like it did today where we had the Sony press conference, which was happening at the exact same time.
Yep.
So, Keith and Mark, thank you once again for being a part of the episode, and maybe I'll see you guys next episode. Dave, Joe, you are always welcome to be on the show.
See ya.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was awesome
Appreciate it.
wrap.
Peace
David.
out.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
guys
guys.
so much.
All right, guys, so Thank you and good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.